All right, so I'm quickly going to run through this. Our membership grew over the last 2 years with just about 90%, from 516 voting members to 953 voting members. Now, we're very glad that we see the growth of SAMAC, and we hope to continue to see this growth going into the future. Our production, that has got nothing to do with SAMAC. That's all thank you to all of you in the room. From 2010 to 2021, almost doubled. We expected actually that it's going to be more than that. All projections indicated that we must be over 60,000 tons by now. But nevertheless, we all know that last year was not a good year at all. And this past season, the 54,000 tons that we predict to reach at the end of the year. This is important because this is what we base our income on from a SAMAC point of view and your levies. So earlier on the day, I spoke about how we spend money on research. Currently, we have 37 projects going on in the research portfolio. And to date, we've spent about 22 million rand on R&D. On transformation, now we have 39 enterprise development projects. We've spent more or less 15 million rand to date on our enterprise development projects. You've seen in the video that we host study groups for our upcoming farmers. We participate in training projects for them, various kind of projects, and you also seen in the video that we allocate bursaries in this portfolio. And then this year, for the first time, we were approached by organizations to say, but can't they then also give us funding that we can use in the transformation space? And this year we secured 750,000 rand for transformation from outside funders. That doesn't come from grower levies. Then one of the things that any organization struggle with, stakeholder engagement and how to do it effectively. This year you would have seen, and if you haven't seen it yet, I invite you to please go and find that report on our website. The statistical report indicating the imports from other countries, so the exports that we do to those countries, and how much they import from South Africa. A very good report and good reading. You've received a journal today. We are available and we communicate with you on WhatsApp. And if you don't get it, please talk to the team so that you can get your communication through WhatsApp. We're on Facebook as well, and then we've got an app on our phone, the SAMAC app. And also the website where you can get information. And then a good part of Lazelle's task or activity or day job is the government engagement. And Lazelle, I sometimes think, I'm happy that I'm not in his shoes to go and attend all of those meetings with government. But they are an important stakeholder, and we are building our relationships with them. It's high up on our agenda to try and reduce the import tariffs into China and also into India for future export to India. But it's a long and tedious process, and so a good portion of what we do is with that communication. I think with that, and then the World Macadamia Organization. And I spoke about that in my opening remarks earlier in the day about this World Macadamia Organization. I can tell you at some point in time, we thought we're never going to get it right. And the board then said to Lazelle to make this a high priority and don't wait for any other country. If the other countries don't want to join us, we're going to do it ourselves. And we kick-started Australia, then joined, and they worked with us in getting this right. But this is, in my view, one of the key things that we need to get right for the future, where we can stimulate through this World Macadamia Organization consumption of macadamias for the anticipated growth that's coming. Right, over to the formalities then. The first part is the approval of the minutes of the previous AGM. The minutes were circulated. I'll quickly run through them. Page 1 of the minutes covered the welcome by the chairperson and the attendance register. Page 2 is just a bullet point summary of what the chairperson spoke about at that AGM. And then page 3 went about the different decisions that we put to the vote, and they were all carried. And then the last page just deals with the closure. Can you now please go over and vote on your handheld for the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the 2nd of September? Okay. So that was approved. Thank you very much. Next up is Sarah, who's going to run you through the director's report, the audited financial statements, and the audit committee report. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Hansen, and as Pierrie mentioned earlier today, I am the financial director here at SAMAC. Firstly, I'd like to thank all members present today at the AGM. I know it is slightly delayed, so thank you very much for your patience while we did have one or two technical difficulties. But most importantly, I'd like to thank you for supporting SAMAC. Without your support and dedication, SAMAC wouldn't be where it is today. We did distribute the 2021 financial statements together with the audit committee report prior to the AGM, which I'm going to, as Pierrie mentioned, run through with you. But before we look at the financials, I would like to share and remind ourselves of what considerations go into our financials. Is the slide extract from the Government Gazette. SAMAC is regulated by the Government Gazette. So the Government Gazette specifies that for the 2021 financial year, we needed to charge 62 cents levy, and next year we're going to charge 68 cents. The levy also specifies how we need to spend the levy income. So a maximum of 70% needs to go to core activities, and these are predominantly research and development. A minimum of 20% needs to go to transformation, and then a maximum of 10% for the administration of the levy. So that's pretty much running SAMAC on a day-to-day basis. But let's dive into the financials and the director's report. I'm only going to touch on certain items and highlight certain things due to time constraints. But if there is anything in the financials that you would like to discuss with me, please feel free to talk to me after the AGM this evening, tomorrow morning, and I'll work through anything with you. The nature of the business reiterates what actually is in the Government Gazette, and that's that SAMAC collects funds and then collects, collates, and distributes the information regarding the production of quality macadamias. SAMAC also carries out research and increases the demand for macadamias, both locally and globally. As indicated earlier, our directors for the year ended 28 of February 2021 are the people mentioned on the screen who identified themselves earlier. I'm not going to ask them to stand up again. I don't think they'll be my friend anymore if I do. But let's jump over to the numbers of the financials, because that's why we're actually here. If we start with our income statement or statement of comprehensive income, you'll see that levy income is our major revenue contributor, and it dropped from 29.9 in 2020 to 26.8. Now, this follows the slide that Pierre shared earlier with you that shows the drop in production for over the 2 years. So I would just like to highlight that to you, so that our revenue is generated predominantly from levy income. If we move over to expenses, for the year we spent 23.6 million, with the lion's share being spent on research and development, and followed by transformation. Now, this is in line again with the Government Gazette and how we are regulated to spend the levy income. Dashing across to our income, to our balance sheet or statement in financial position, the significant asset there is cash and cash equivalents, which comes in at 25 million. The large cash aspect can be linked to the liability deferred income. Okay, there's deferred income over there. Now, it is SAMAC's accounting policy to recognize the levy income in the period that the applicable expense or service is rendered related to that levy. And that's how the deferred income is generated, or deferred revenue is recognized there. I'd like to just go to break down. No, I don't. There we go. Okay. If we look at the breakdown of the levy income, it is split between what is regulated in the Gazette, between research and development, special project, which forms part of research and development, and transformation. So those are revenue that we generated, but we haven't spent yet, that we'll spend hopefully in the next financial year. But what did our auditors say? We're very happy to say that we did receive a clean audit report, which means that the audited financials fairly presents, in all material respects, the financial position, the financial performance, and the cash flows for the February 2021 financial year. Lastly, I would just like to jump onto the Audit Committee report. The Audit Committee consisted of 2 directors, myself and Mono, our external director. The Audit Committee is satisfied that there are sufficient internal controls in place at SAMAC, as well as that the company complied with the necessary legislation for the year under review. We would also like to recommend, which we'll be voting on a little bit later, the reappointment of Ashton Group Auditors for the 22 financial year. And that's me in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. And like she said, there's an open invitation. If you would like to discuss any of those points with her afterwards, you're very welcome to do so. So the next point on the agenda is the appointment of the auditors. And like Sarah said, the Audit Committee looked at the independence of the auditors, they looked at their performance, and they recommend that we reappoint Ashton as the auditors for the next year. You, however, need to vote on the appointment of the auditors. On your screen now, you will see the 3 options again, for, against, and abstain. And if you can please vote for that appointment now. Thank you very much. So that is then the appointment of the auditors. The next point on the agenda is the appointment of the Audit Committee. In terms of our MOI, the members must appoint the Audit Committee for the next year. This year, as Sarah mentioned, the Audit Committee consisted of Sarah as the chairperson of that committee, and then Dr. Mona Mashava, and the board recommends that we appoint them again as the Audit Committee for next year. On your handheld device now, you will have a question to vote for Sarah as an Audit Committee member. Same process, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much. So that vote also, that resolution also passed. The last point on our agenda is the ratification of the appointment of the independent board member. We had a long debate and a long process that we went through in identifying an appropriate candidate that we can appoint on our board. And myself and Lizelle had 4 different conversations with candidates, and eventually recommended to the board that we appoint Lebogang. She can unfortunately not be here today. She's a new mother and couldn't make it to the park with the baby. So Lebogang is a businesswoman, and she completed a master's degree in international business. She's got a bachelor's of business and commerce, and also completed a certificate in African international trade and African thought leadership. She is a public speaker on various platforms around the world and joined the stage with a number of presidents around the world. She resides in Gauteng. She has experience from top-tier consulting firms working with KPMG and Deloitte, and she's currently a principal director at Accenture. She's a people-driven person and has an eye for talented individuals. And we ask that you ratify this appointment. She's already appointed, but in terms of the MOI, the members must ratify her appointment. Can you please vote on your handheld device for this now? Thank you. That resolution then also passed. All right, so in terms of the board, in terms of the Companies Act, the director's fees must be approved by the members, and then that approval stands for 2 years. And only 2 days ago, as a matter of fact, yesterday when I was preparing for this meeting, I realized that we left it out on the agenda, and we can't add and we can't introduce that conversation at this meeting. The proposal will be that we're going to send to you is that we adjust the director's fees just with the inflation-related adjustment, but we will have to then do that approval at a later stage. And at the moment, the idea is when we ask you to vote on the levy in late January or early February next year for the new levy cycle, we will just add this point onto your voting process that you're going to go through then to just approve the director's fees again. Yeah, so it was an oversight, but we will ask you to vote on it then later. So thank you very much.